Better known among his brothers as the Fleshtearer, Nassir Amit was a savage warrior set apart from his more noble kin within the Blood Angels Legion, though the Ninth was well known within the Imperium as one of the most famous fighting forces of Legionis Astartes. They were well known for their beauty and elegance, commonly adorned with the most ornate war gear crafted by master artisans, and this elegance was mirrored in their speech and demeanor. Well, for the most part. Because the Fleshtearer was definitely cut from a different cloth. Amit was the embodiment of martial ferocity. However, little is known about Amit before his promotion to the captain of the 5th Company. Yet the cascading litany of records chronicling his deeds is a testament to the man's prowess as a leader and a warrior. The captain's patience for glamour and refinement his brothers entertained being non-existent. Instead, the Fleshtearer bore the battle damage on his armor proudly, rarely if ever having it repaired or glamorized in the way that his legion was known to do. He'd wear his battle-ravaged war gear even at times that it wasn't appropriate, such as ceremonial occasions concerning other Primarchs or even the Emperor. But even more concerning to his more noble-minded brothers, Captain Amit would take flaying knives with him into battle, and he even equipped his company with them as well, all the more to make them frightening and intimidating in combat, as well as to serve other applications. The captain would wear ordinary power armor at times, but is more well known for his unique Terminator armor, which were equipped with dual chain fists, complete with wrist-mounted storm bolters. Amit was an unstoppable god of war in the midst of battle, the chain revving and cacophony of bolters only drowned out by the Fleshtearer's roars of rage. His prowess in battle becoming pretty legendary and well known among the other legions of Astartes, which is actually where he got his nickname, because Nassir Amit earned the title Fleshtearer by none other than Captain Karn of the World Eaters Legion. Amit loved the gladiatorial pits of the World Eaters, and he won basically every duel he ever committed himself to in these no-holds-barred contests, with all who challenged him being laid low. Well, not everybody. There were a couple that he couldn't beat, obviously, such as Sigismund of the Imperial Fists, for example, but for the most part, he was unstoppable. At some point in the Great Crusade, upon a world that the two forces had conquered in a joint action, Captain Karn and Amit dueled in a brutal contest that left both horribly wounded, and it was then that the World Eater named Amit the Fleshtearer, and the name stuck. In battle, Amit personified death as a force of nature. He'd wade into the ranks of the enemy like a whirlwind of steel, painting all around him in blood. And his insatiable bloodlust is also what his 5th Company was known to mirror. Many times, the zealous savagery of him and his men had to be disciplined by the Primarch Sanguinius himself. Yet despite that, the Angel held Amit in high esteem. For Sanguinius knew that the captain of the 5th Company was the manifestation of a more profound true nature the Blood Angels kept suppressed and hidden deep within the subconscious. For how could he punish his sons for an aspect of himself he knew was externalized in them? In fact, Amit realized the Red Thirst's existence before any of his brothers and even brought it to the Primarch's attention. Sanguinius told him he too was fully aware of it, but to keep it secret. Amit dared to question the Primarch and told him that it was a mistake to keep it hidden, because in the end, it was the Red Thirst itself that actually gave the Blood Angels their power. It was their strength, at least to the Fleshtearer, who probably would have made a very excellent champion of Khorne if the Blood Angels didn't remain loyal. However, him confronting the Primarch and straight up telling him that he was wrong actually didn't anger Sanguinius, because he'd always enjoyed the 5th Captain's blunt honesty, and how he'd ever spoken his mind freely, even to his detriment. The Angel knew that such people were very useful, especially in military matters, and respected that he was so blunt and courageous in his opinions, to the point that he even said that the Emperor was wrong to his Primarch on one such occasion. During the Council of Nicaea, many of the Imperium's highest authorities came together about psychic powers being used within the Legionis Astartes, and Amit was very openly pro-psyker. So when it came down for the Emperor to give his proclamation, to give his verdict on the matter, Sanguinius ordered Amit to guard his personal quarters. In doing so, the Primarch avoided the possibility of Amit questioning or even arguing with the Emperor, which most assuredly would have had some unfortunate results. And with the Emperor declaring that all psychic powers within the legions to be banned, it was a smart move on Sanguinius' part, because Amit would have most assuredly spoken his mind. When War Master Horus ordered the Blood Angels Legion to make war on the Cygnus cluster, Amit knew something was up very early on into the mission. He even dared to say that Horus had set them up in a trap right before the face of Sanguinius. And this was before Horus's betrayal was known. At that point, the Imperium had never even suspected treasonous activity within the legions. So Sanguinius struck Amit right then and there over the suggestion and then ordered him to take it back. The angel ordered him to recant his statement about the War Master. However, Amit refused to do so, and it turned out he was right. He also suggested that the word bearers had betrayed the Emperor, and that too turned out to be correct. When demons manifested within the Cygnus cluster to assault the Blood Angels, Amit was completely at home in enacting his savage style of warfare. However, when a greater demon caused a psychic backlash to engulf the Legion after laying low Sanguinius, the Red Thirst completely possessed the entire Legion. And like many of the legions at the time, a contingent of Space Wolves were among them. The Fleshtearer and his company brutally murdered these Space Wolves in a blind rage. Amit would look back on the incident regretfully, but he knew that there was a bigger picture of his brother's deaths. It wasn't entirely their fault, but inspired by primal instincts and not their conscious minds. It was the Red Thirst at its peak of influence. At the end of the Horus Heresy, the Fleshtearer told Roboute Guilliman that his Codex Astartes was a bad idea. And at a rare moment of breaking his cool, Guilliman punched the Blood Angel in the gut for the audacity to question a Primarch to his face. But Amit just got up and told him it was a dumb idea a second time. In an ironic twist, upon his reawakening 10,000 years later, Guilliman agreed with Nassir Amit. But upon Guilliman breaking up the legions into chapters, Amit was chosen as the first chapter master of the newly formed Fleshtearers chapter. His new independent fighting force honoring him by taking the former captain's legion nickname, the chapter changing the paint scheme of the Blood Angels to one that made them unique as well. The Blood Angel red was darkened, and so was the Aquila, pauldrons, and helmet, and the power pack all being changed to a jet black. And the newly formed Fleshtearers were set free to rip and tear throughout the galaxy. They played their part in the scouring, bringing the Emperor's justice to all the traitor legions and pushing them back into the Eye of Terror. But among the many successor chapters of the Blood Angels, the Fleshtearer is pretty well known for creating the Reliquary of Amit, a holy relic for all the Space Marines that descend from Sanguinius. It's a stasis container that holds a feather of the angel that never touched the ground, and there floats in midair, suspended forever outside of time. Where the reliquary is kept is obviously a holy site, where any of the sons of Sanguinius can express their sorrow over the Primarch's death at the arch-traitor's hands. Now, the Blood Angels and their successors are known as the longest living of all Astartes, and Nassir Amit himself led the Fleshtearers for thousands of years. Imperial history documents the Fleshtearers as being a fleet-based chapter for millennia. Yet it also clearly states that Amit personally claimed the chapter's eventual homeworld of Cretacia, and even oversaw the creation of the chapter's fortress monastery. So the guy lived to be really old, even older than Dante. And the Fleshtearers chapter would go on to gain much honor and renown throughout the millennia of Imperial history, though just as much controversy as well. The chapter embodies the brutal, rage-induced ways of war conducted by Nassir Amit and his 5th Company of the Blood Angels Legion. So they rip and tear pretty hard. And after the coming of the Black Rage, the descendants of the 5th Company would be more susceptible to it than many of the other chapters of successors. And he'd leave some questions for the following generations of Fleshtearers because his death is shrouded in mystery. After leaving Cretacia into the void for unknown purposes, his vessel vanished and was never heard from again. In the 41st millennium, the current chapter master of the Fleshtearers, Gabriel Seth, found Amit's helmet in a space hulk that materialized into real space. Seth put on the helmet and viewed the recordings from the cogitator stored within it. Viewing what the relic had to show caused him to go unconscious, and the helmet was then destroyed. Just what Gabriel Seth saw was only vaguely hinted at by him and then kept secret, only known to Seth himself.
Men crave food, they crave flesh, they crave power. We are not men, the Emperor's angels. His space marines crave honor. They crave retribution. They crave justice. We are not angels. We are the blood sons of Sanguinius. We crave only violence, bloodshed. There is no void in the deep of our souls, only hunger, an insatiable call to slaughter.